The second ability is imagery memory, and it's something all artists need. We all have it when we're kids. When we're young and just starting out in the world, our innocent hearts are always connected to the images of the trees we see and our feelings. We don't know what kind of tree it is. We don't know anything about botany, but I just like this tree, when I was a kid. Why do I like this tree? The image of this tree can hold so many of my feelings. It might be an old tree, always standing at the entrance of the village. As a kid, every time I passed by it, I would feel like it was a kind old man, weathered and looking at me. That's what I would think. I couldn't help but say, "Hey, Grandpa, I'm back." That's what my childlike heart would think. Would you think the same when you grow up? No, that tree is called a locust tree, right? That's it. After leaving your hometown, you might drift up north to Beijing, or down south to Shanghai. You miss your hometown, right? When you miss your hometown, you think of that big locust tree again. At this point, it's not just a locust tree, it holds so many childhood memories and emotions for you, right? You can't help but write about it. You can't wait to go back to your hometown. You want to see it for the first time, and all those emotions come back. But when you finally return to your hometown and see it, it's just the same, and you go back to your daily life. Beauty is about distance, and it makes sense, especially when we're about to go home. The hometown is so beautiful. Finally, when you return to your hometown, after just 2 days, you feel that it's not beautiful at all. The old worries come back, and the distance is gone. That's how it is. So, the images of things that have left a deep impression on us are the embodiment of our emotions. This is how we were when we were children, and this is called imagery memory. I came across this passage from Feng Zikai, died in 1975, where he talks about his own feelings. He was into painting, Western painting to be precise, and the first thing you learn in Western painting is sketching, right? Sketching from real life. For instance, you get a plaster statue, hang it at home, shine a light on it at a certain angle, and then you start sketching. You gotta practice sketching from real life. Feng Zikai talks about this in his article. It's from a book called Feng Zikai on Art, published by Fudan University Press. There's a chapter in there called Food for the Painter's Eyes. What keeps the painter going? His feelings when he was sketching from a plaster statue are described in the following passage. He said, "I can't believe it myself, after struggling with the plaster model for a long time, my surroundings started to feel different. I felt that the world in front of me wasn't as chaotic as it used to be, and all kinds of shapes started to convey meaning to me, just like people's faces. The shapes of the mud on the ground, the shadows of the clouds in the sky, the cracks on the wall, the water stains on the table. They all seemed to pose for me. The branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits of various plants were also eager to show me their unique characteristics." Feng Zikai was like a kid at heart when he painted this picture. Reading this passage made me think of my childhood. I used to lie on the bed to cool off in the summer, and when I looked up, what did I see? The ceiling. It wasn't as nicely painted as it is today. It had all kinds of cracks and shapes. And I would sit there and think, oh, this looks like a dog pouncing on its food. I would start imagining, just a kid, right? When I read this passage, it made me remember how it used to be. So I walked into my room. It was an old, run-down house. It had all kinds of cracks and water stains on the walls. They were all over the place, right? It meant a lot to me then. It was filled with all kinds of meanings, but as I grew up, I just saw it as an old house, nothing else. Hey, the feelings are different. I used to get up around 5 o'clock in the morning. my father would ask me to go to the vegetable market to buy vegetables. Why so early? To queue up, right? And then the place at the end of the alley that made tofu milk and fried dough sticks was open. Was it open? The preparations were being made. The stove had already been lit, and the water in the big pot was boiling and releasing its steam. In the steam, I could see the light at the end of the alley, the mist under the dim light, and I would think that soon, what would come out of the oven? The delicious and fragrant fried dough sticks, right? And they were busy, and in the distance, it was quiet. Hey, there was a bit of a shadow, and then I would walk to the vegetable market. Hey, there were many feelings in my heart. At that time, the world around me was like this, all kinds of images were imprinted there, and later I thought if I were a painter, I could paint the scenes of the alleys in Shanghai, China, in the early morning and at dusk, right? The anticipation of a new beginning, a new day has come again, you know. Hey, those feelings can all be put into a painting, but unfortunately, I can't paint. It has a lot of poetic meaning hidden in it. Life was peaceful at that time. So Feng Zikai talks about what comes to mind and an artist is engaged in his artistic training. Memories of various images. We don't have that ability anymore, or it's just gotten really weak, pushed aside. We've piled up a ton of knowledge, logic, symbols, math formulas, and all that jazz. Sure, that kind of memory is super important, or else you won't even get into Fudan University, you know what I mean? But what's the point of having that kind of visual memory, huh? Life has changed, but the artist keeps our childhood memories and images alive, and it's getting richer and richer, totally unlike us. Just imagine, what's the most mind-blowing skill? Those top-notch conductors, leading a symphony, right? Sometimes the symphony goes on for a whopping 50 minutes. Even the shorter ones last 35 or 40 minutes. They don't even glance at the sheet music, no sheet music at all. The entire 4 movements of the symphony are all stored in their heads, and they conduct it all from memory. What kind of skill is this? It's definitely not just about memorizing symbols. Right. When you read a full score, what you're really reading is the music coming to life, isn't it? It's like it's booming in your ears, even though there's no actual orchestra playing. Of course, a conductor who can read the score can do this. Let's say for this piece it is his first time, and he's never heard any recordings or anyone else's performance, right? He's never heard any performance of this symphony, and he able to conduct it from reading the score. What is he reading when he reads the score? A bunch of symbols. I don't understand musical notation at all. So when I look at it, it's all abstract symbols, you know. What the conductor gets, however, is the image of the music, right, and then he memorizes it. I think this skill is so incredible. I really admire it. A world-class conductor has dozens of symphonies in his mind, ready to be conducted at any time. Dozens of them in his mind, while I, Wang Defeng, think having just one in my mind would be incredible. Why do musicians put their trust in these top-notch conductors? It's because they're terrified of anything less than top-notch. What if you can't cut it and end up messing up? Miss a tiny section and it's game over. See, the musicians all have the sheet music in front of them, right? They can't just wing it. But if you skip a bit here, come in late there, it throws everyone off and it's total chaos. So everyone's worried, can you handle it? So, what puts the musicians at ease? When does the whole orchestra feel relatively chill? It's when the conductor's got the score, he is flipping through it every night, making sure there are no mistakes, no missing bits. But what about the big-shot conductors? Like Karajan, Bernstein, Barenboim, and even Zubin Mehta, they never even glance at the score. You've gotta trust them, they won't mess up, not even a single note. It's all in their head, it's all in their gut. What do you call that? Eidetic memory. It's way more than just memorizing symbols and logic. The whole musical picture of a piece is all in their mind. I used to think this was really amazing, but then I realized it's not that mind-blowing. It's just a different way of memorizing stuff. This kind of memory is all about emotions, all about emotions. You can't just mechanically remember things with eidetic memory. Feng Zikai nailed it when he said a painter doesn't always have to paint from real life, right? Sometimes when he's creating, there's nothing in front of him, no actual scenery, but he can still paint a killer landscape. It's all in his head, and why does he remember it? Because when he's imagining these scenes, he's filled with emotions, and that's what makes it stick. You need that kind of emotional image, the swaying of the flowers, the leap of the fish, the scent, it's all in your eidetic memory. And when it comes to memorizing a musical score, it's the same deal. The thing that drives a conductor to memorize dozens of symphonies, what does it do for him? It's actually not that hard to understand all the emotions. How do you memorize a poem? It's all about emotions. We can also sing a pretty long song, right? Doesn't seem too tough. After listening to symphonies for decades, many melodies are stored in my heart, and I can easily recall them. So when the first note of a symphony, my most familiar one, starts, I start humming along. I can hum it all the way through, and then I realize that I've also memorized it, and it's not that difficult. The thing is, it's all about emotional eidetic memory. Well, that's all for today.